Ladies and gentlemen, the 3 knockdown rule is in effect on Triller. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Mario Lopez. And Mario, I know no moniker, though.
I know no moniker.
Because we have a Desert Storm coming in.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. We have a Desert Storm. Quick shout out to Smoking Tim Frazier, Justin Buffalo Knuckles, and Tino on the edits. Yes, Desert Storm talking to us from beautiful Palm Springs, California. The man, Tim Bradley, in the house.
What's up, baby? What's
always
up, guys?
enjoy talking to you, brother.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you for taking the time, man. Thank you for taking the time. Fights went down this weekend. You were calling them, but you weren't there. Everything okay with you?
Yeah, everything is good. My wife ended up catching COVID, and so I ended up staying back at home. I didn't want to go. I maybe came in contact. I was taking care of my wife, so I just didn't want to chance it and go out there and get everybody sick. So.
Sure. Good for you.
Well, Tim, it was 5 below, according to the broadcast. So maybe it was perfect timing, but we certainly hope that your wife is okay. It's interesting. The main event of the night was WBO light heavyweight champion Joe Smith taking on late replacement Steve Jeffrard, knocking him out in 9. Tim, overall, your thoughts on the performance, and based on what you saw and what you've seen recently, how does Joe Smith match up with the better Beevs and the Canelos of the world at 175?
Well, I can just tell you this kid has been in the game for 14 years. He's been a champion for 9 months or so. I believe that he honestly fits in the same department of those guys, because if you really look at his resume and who the guys that he's faced and who he's beaten some top quality opposition. And I think him against better Beev, I think it'd be a great fight. I mean, you got 2 guys that fight off the front foot. Both of these guys, they're very aggressive. Both these guys got tremendous punching power. And like I said during the broadcast, I believe that this is the second hardest puncher in his division, and better Beev being number 1. So I think it'll be a firework type of fight for the fans. I think this fight doesn't go to distance. If it does happen, it will not go to distance. Somebody's going to get knocked out.
Tim, I couldn't agree with you more. I've been a fan of his for a while now. I like how he got into the sport, his sort of blue collar mentality. He's a big kid for that weight class. How he makes 175, I don't know. But you're right. He comes in, lets his hands go, throws punches with bad intentions. And I think right after better Beev, I would say Joe Smith has the same almost one punch knockout power, but better Beev is like that guy that just he can hit you in the arms and the hips, wherever. It would just start to break you down, as opposed to maybe that twitchy sort of explosiveness that Joe Smith has. I don't know if he necessarily has that break you down sort of methodical quality that better Beev has, but I think he's in the mix there with all of the top light heavyweights. Dangerous guy, and it was a great performance.
Tim, if you were Joe Smith, because Artur Beterbiev has a well-earned reputation of being a slow starter. He's hit the canvas early in fights before. If you were him and you matched up with him, would you try to blitz Beterbiev and go right to the belly of the beast, or am I completely off base?
I mean, Joe Smith Jr. has to be who he is, honestly. And he's not going to just start being the boxer. Just put it that way. He's not going to just start boxing off the back foot. Be who you are, meet force with force. He's actually a bigger guy than better Beev. I think he can push him back at times. I think his right hand, we've seen better Beev in the past go down from short shots, left hooks, and right hands. And also his inactivity. That's what bothers me about better Beev, his inactivity. The fact that fatherhood could be creeping in on him. 36 years old. He's had some wears and tears. He's been breaking down in training as well. He's had some issues, injuries, and things that he had to deal with. So I think it's the perfect time for, a guy like Joe Smith Jr. and, to have an opportunity to face this guy. I mean, better Beev, I hear what you're saying. He's a methodical pressure fighter. And when I say methodical is that he's smart. He's a lot smarter than everybody give him credit for. The way he moves in and out, and how calm and patient he is on the inside, and the way he throws his shots, short, quick, accurate shots, hard, not loading up with punches, is what makes this guy extremely dangerous.
I couldn't agree with you more. I always feel that it's such a disservice to the fighter when trainers or the fighters take it upon themselves to sort of try to acclimate or adjust to the opponent that they're facing. Like Tim says, you do have to be who you are, play to your strengths. And I think he's just as dangerous if you were to fight like a better Beev, for example. if they're standing there and maybe going toe to toe at certain moments, and when he lets his right hand and left hands go. And you're right about Beterbiev too. He is methodical and aggressive, but not reckless. He comes in and he's very composed, and those are hard, short, crisp shots that he's able to keep up. So it's a tough out either way.
Well, Mario, there's no doubt Beterbiev is a wrecking ball, but he takes time to get going. Now, it's interesting. Me and Tim communicate a lot, and he said it on the air after the fight on Saturday, and he's very clear with it. Beterbiev, the consensus, number 175, but according to our guest, Tim Bradley of ESPN, your view is that Dimitri Bivol is the best light heavyweight in the world.
Yes, that is. And I only say this because, I mean, stylistically, he hasn't been able to prove it just yet. But stylistically, I believe with his footwork, his boxing ability, his jab, his countering ability is fantastic. I call him the shutdown guy. He shuts down everybody's offense because when he makes you miss, he makes you pay. He comes right back. You don't see that often in the division, honestly. Beterbiev, the wrecking ball coming forward. Beterbiev, wrecking ball coming forward. Bivol, I believe that can dance circles around him. I believe that he can, I believe that he can keep this man off balance and not allow him to set his feet and set his power up. And so I think Beterbiev, Bivol is once again is the best light heavyweight in the world.
First time I respectfully disagree. I think he is Bivol, the best pure boxer.
Great fencer.
Great. Exactly. However, I think that both the pressure of Beterbiev will ultimately I've never seen, if I would have seen Bivol in more instances where he can fight on the inside a little bit or know how to hold, escape, I feel like the pressure will overwhelm him. And if I were a betting man, I would think that Beterbiev might eventually.
Mario, like I've told you, he needs to be a better knife fighter. We know he could fence. Tim, do you think Bivol is a fully developed fighter? Because I think it's a little bit incomplete from the mid-range and inside. You agree or disagree with that?
I disagree with that because if you look at the Joe Smith fight, go back and look at the Joe Smith fight. I mean, Joe Smith is a bigger guy, longer arms, likes to crowd you, likes to get in your grill, and he was able to isolate and neutralize him in his offense. And Joe Smith Jr., he comes and he comes and he comes. He doesn't stop coming. This guy continues to march forward and let his hands go with a high volume and power shots, and Bivol was able to neutralize him. So
by all means, I'm not calling Bivol a bum or anything. I was just saying, you were saying as far as the cream of the crop of the division. And yes, I do say as far as pure boxing ability, he is the most fluid out there. I would put Beterbiev still at the top because I still feel his pressure, unlike a Joe Smith who does come forward. I think his Beterbiev's punches are a little more calculated, a little harder. He does know how to break you down. Let me ask you someone else in this division that we haven't mentioned yet and your thoughts on him and how he fits in. Zordo.
Wow.
How do you like Zordo in this?
Zordo is dangerous. He's very dangerous. He's dangerous because he has championship pedigree. He came from 168. He was dominant there. A lot of guys that wanted to get in the ring with him at 175 pounds. Of course, he had the whole thing with Top Rank where he switched promoters or whatever. So he had to take some time off. But as far as his style goes, a big southpaw that can box and can brawl and can take it on the chin. He's dangerous for any of these guys. In his last performance, I thought he got hit a little bit too much against Gonzalez, but still, he was still able to bounce back, find a way to stop him and get him up out of there, man, with his punching power as well. So I think he fits in perfectly in the equation as well. Like I told you guys, this division is wide open. There hasn't been one dominant guy in this division.
I agree with Tim too, because Zordo is that sort of combination of he does know how to box well, and I've actually, believe it or not, sparred with him. He was big, and I was so surprised at his footwork and how elusive he is for a big guy and being a southpaw, but he does know how to mix it up.
Well,
so he's a nice balance of the two. I question if a guy like a Beterbiev, though, because again, we're putting it to he's the one who I think is the cream of the crop of that division. If he's able to utilize all his tools.
Well, Maury, I've said it. We know we like the more exciting Zordo. Against Beterbiev, he better go to the four corners.
Well, that's exactly what I was.
And angles.
That's
but
exactly
I want to
what I was
ask Tim this.
say.
Tim, You're a guy that likes entertaining fights, but you're a broadcaster, but you're also a boxer. Is a more entertaining, exciting Zordo, who you said may have gotten hit a little bit too much his last fight, is it actually a better Ramirez?
I think he's a better Ramirez. I actually like his trainer.
Julia Chua.
Good job with him. Yeah, Chua. I think he's done a great job with him. And, making Zordo, I believe, more calculated. The problem with Zordo is that he has that Mexican heart. I don't want anybody to take offense to that, but he has that big heart, man. He can be easily drugged or dragged into a fight. And that's the biggest issue. But I think it depends on what's on the line. So if he's facing a guy like Beev, I believe that he has the ability to outbox him. He's smart enough. He has a great chin. He can stay on the outside. He's a southpaw. He can box on the outside. If you look at that Marcus Brown fight, Marcus Brown was having some success early on. Mm-hmm. He was outboxing. He was moving, and he was outboxing Beev. But Beev started closing the gap on him, and then you can see Marcus Brown starting to wither away. But I don't think you're going to get that from a guy like Ramirez. That's a hard guy to really, deter and stop from coming in and being aggressive or boxing on the back foot.
Tim, this weekend on Showtime, Gary Russell, yes, he still fights WBC featherweight titleist, defends against Mark Mixayo. Get this. This is his first fight from about a month before the pandemic. He fought in February 2020 against King Tug in Allentown. I've thought for years, I remember watching him on Golden Boy shows. Doug Fisher was one of the announcers. When he fought, I'd literally leave right after because I'd say to everybody, I'm not going to see anything better that night. I thought we were looking at one of the best fighters in the world. But Tim, this is a guy that literally has fought once a year and now is fighting once every other year. Is this on the fighter for not speaking up, or is it his management?
Management. At the end of the day, it's management. I think, Gary Russell Jr. is a fantastic talent. I think he's wasting his best years right now, just sitting on the fence. I don't know if it's the fact that guys don't want to face him. That's what he keeps saying. Guys don't want to, put their O's up and face him, but he's a champion. He's a champion. So why wouldn't guys want to face him? But at the end of the day, I think this is a great matchup for him. I think what everybody's going to realize that there's levels to this game. Even though, Gary Smith Jr. hasn't fought in a year and a half, he's still in the gym. He's probably still actively, engaged in the gym and sparring. And, he's a serious guy. He takes the sport very serious. But
Tim, doesn't a fighter have to tell his management, hey, guys, I'm getting kind of rusty. I'm not making any money. I'm not getting promoted because I don't fight. Doesn't the fighter himself have to take that impetus to say, guys, I'd like to get back on the job here?
Yeah, of course. And I think fighters need to be more involved. I mean, you have your managers that you speak to the promoter, but fighters need to be more involved, even when the management side. And that's the biggest issue that I see with boxing, because managers only tell you half the story. They tell you the story where they look good. They don't tell you the story of, what actually was said in the meeting. So fighters should start going to these meetings with their managers and sitting with their promoter and actually seeing what the plan is for them and how they're going to lay it out and what's next and what's going to be going on in the future.
That's a great piece of advice right there. It's much like an actor. You can tell your agent, hey, I want to do more stuff, but unless you take initiative and start creating opportunities for yourself and get buzz, nothing's going to happen. I wanted to talk about the potential matchup with Usyk and Joshua, or it's not potential, it's actually going to happen. The Usyk Joshua rematch that's coming up, because Tim, you predicted Usyk would beat Joshua
clearly too
in the first, which was
he flat out told me, he said, Kim, I'm telling you, Usyk big. He didn't waffle.
Let me tell you something. after a Canelo, to me, Usyk stands a case for, as far as this whole mythical pound for pound, clearing out the cruiserweight division, and manner he did, and now winning the heavyweight title. Do you see it going any different this time, round 2, Tim?
No, I don't see it going any different.
Really?
At all. I don't. I just, you have a guy in Joshua that's looking, I don't know, he's looking to find himself. I don't know what he's looking for. I mean, you just need to look at yourself. He's looking for different trainers and different techniques and things. And you can see him going from gym to gym and trying to look for, the piece that he believes that's missing. Well, it's this, it's that. No, man, it's you. It's your mentality. And, sometimes a fighter can have too much success early on, and then they stop doing what they used to do early on in their career. They stop being that hungry fighter. And I think that's the case with Joshua. I don't think he's hungry anymore. I think he's enjoying his time and enjoying his fruits of his hard labor. And you always got to have that little edge when you're a fighter, that little bitty edge where, you know what, sometimes success can bring you down, but at the same time, you can also lose a hell of a lot from having success.
I don't know if you guys agree with me. I don't care if he has Ray Arcel, Emmanuel Stewart, Teddy Atlas. To me, Usyk is just a bad matchup for Anthony Joshua. Now, there was another notable heavyweight fight this past fall. Fury Wilder, the trilogy. Tim, what did you take away from that fight and as that rivalry came to a conclusion?
What was my takeaway from that fight? Man, to be honest with you, I felt that Deontay Wilder, he did the absolute best that he can possibly do. I wouldn't have taken that fight if I was Deontay Wilder. I would have stayed away from that fight, and I would have built myself up a little bit more before stepping in the ring with that guy, Tyson Fury, once again. Tyson Fury showed that not only can he dish it, he can also take it. I knew Tyson Fury was going to win the rematch. I knew he was going to win this third bout, hands down. I knew he was going to stop Deontay Wilder, because when you get stopped inside that ring, when a guy, he just runs over you like a freight train, like in that second fight, psychologically it's so hard to come back from that. And especially being off for some time and then coming back and revisiting that, you can just tell that Deontay Wilder was having an extreme hard time dealing with his emotions inside that ring.
And Tim, he was also under the guidance of a new trainer in Malik Scott, a young man that I've known for years. I think is a very bright trainer. They were doing all this stuff on social media, new drills, but Tim, when you're with a new trainer, you could practice and drill all you want. I kind of agree with you. They were better off, in my view, guys, getting a few tuna fights and having a few test runs with Malik in the corner. That's my view of it.
I couldn't agree with you anymore. I mean, it didn't make any sense to me for Malik to step in and then not have time to even just showcase what you've learned. I mean, it's really hard, especially to show an old dog new tricks. It really is. When you have a guy like Wilder's been doing it just one way this whole time, and now all of a sudden, now you want to bring in different fundamentals and bring in different things. It's extremely hard, because as soon as he gets hit, as you saw in the fight, as soon as he got popped, he resulted back to himself.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
It takes time, man. It really does. It takes about 2 years for a fighter to kind of change things, especially when he's an older fighter.
Right.
Change some of the principles that he's learned early on and bring in some new principles.
Yeah, a lot of it becomes just second nature and habit.
Yep.
The Kambosos Teofimo Lopez fight, could you see that loss coming, or were you as surprised as everyone else?
I was surprised. I'm not gonna lie. I was extremely surprised by the loss. I was hearing through the grapevine that things weren't going so well in the camp of Lopez, but I still thought he was able enough and talented enough to be able to pull it off. The thing about that is that he went into the fight. I would say they say that he was injured going into the fight. He was sick. He wasn't 100%. And from the first round on, looking at that Lopez, I knew something was wrong, because I've never seen a guy so urgent to get another fighter out of there and not having the discipline, because as a fighter, the more reckless you become or angry you become, the more vulnerable you become.
Right.
And that knockdown, I think was the icing on the cake for Kambosos. That gave Kambosos confidence to do what he needed to do throughout the fight and keep him focused throughout the fight, because now he knows that, hey, I got him. I got him right where I want him, Go ahead.
Tim, you had the greatest set of abs I've ever seen on a fighter. But even you, when we saw the footage, Mario, when the mountain man was pounding away with those body shots on Teofimo.
What is that?
Would you have ever allowed anyone to do that to you?
Bad decision-making right there.
You know what? No, I wouldn't allow that. I mean, I would do medicine ball work, but man, having that big old guy hit me to the gut like that, I think that's more of a social media publicity type of stunt, man. I'm cool with that. I would never let a man hit me like that to the body, especially as big as that guy.
No, that was incredibly ridiculous and unnecessary. You're absolutely right. I was surprised too, not to discredit Kambosos because he came in so confident and was well prepared I was surprised by his hand speed, the fact that he was so gritty because he ended up taking some shots, showed some grit when he got up the canvas himself and ended up closing the show in a big way.
You know what it reminded me of? Rocky 3, the first Clubber Lang fight. Clubber's in a dungeon working out by himself.
Yep.
And
great analogy.
And according to Mickey, so we're training in a house of ill repute with the bubble machines and people playing the piano. It is a mindset, is it not, Tim? You may think working hard, but your mindset has to be correct.
Tim, let me ask you this. Speaking of mindset, when things did start to go south with Teofimo, how much of a factor was his corner because the dad wasn't exactly giving sound advice other than
knock him out, bro.
Let's knock this motherfucker. You know what I mean? And should an adjustment be made, or are people too quick to jump to that conclusion?
No, I think his dad had a shitty night. He had a shitty night. That's just it. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, he wasn't giving his son any kind of advice. And the thing is that you want somebody real in your corner telling you actually what's happening with the facts. You're down, son. You're losing it. You're blowing it, kid. But you also got to think that this is a man that's been by his son his entire career. Someone that his son is used to hearing the voice of, believe in. I don't think it's a fact that, he needs to get rid of his father. I think it's a fact that he needs to add someone to the team, a fresh pair of eyes to help some of the flaws that I see that Teofimo Lopez has.
Collaboration.
Well, remember, they brought in Joey Gamache. They did bring in Joey Gamache, and Tim, you know the way it works with fathers. Sometimes those young men, it's a non-starter. You're not even allowed to discuss getting rid of the father. You know the way that works is the political aspect of boxing.
But Tim's right, though. You don't have to get rid of Pops.
Right.
But just have one in addition, too.
Yes. I wouldn't get rid of his Pops because that's the guy that makes him tick. That's the guy that he's confident around. That's the guy that boosts his morale.
Right.
And morale is extremely important. You got to have that inside the corner. And he's used to his father speaking to him, his whole entire career. So you can't just let that go by the wayside. I understand what people are saying, but the dad just had a horrible, horrible night. I think he's going to learn from it. He better learn from it. And they just need to bring somebody else in. Like I tell you, just another set of eyes.
Kim and I disagree on this. I happen to think Teofimo, yes, he did have a bad night, but I think the kid's a special talent with his speed, his reflexes, his strength, his composure in there, how young he is. And he really impressed me when he took on Lomo when no one else wanted, and the path he chooses to take. He seems to think that psychologically this might be tough for him if he were to move up on the weight class. I actually think he's been killing himself to make this weight, and he's going to be one of these guys that's going to be able to carry that power, have the speed. And if he's honest with himself, and especially if he's able to add someone to the corner, he could be fine.
Well, Mario, I agree with all that. I agree, but
you said that, but
psychologically,
it's a big if.
Have you ever heard of Humpty Dumpty when he fell off the wall? They could never what do you think? I think psychologically it's a bigger issue than physically.
Well, that's what we're going to wait. That's what we're going to have to see.
The young man is an emotional guy. He really is. And I think to Steve's point is that, being an emotional guy and having your pride kind of taken away from you a bit, it's going to be tough to bounce back for a guy like Teofimo Lopez. But for me, I think, honestly, he needs to get back into the ring as soon as possible. That's what I would say. Mm-hmm. I think he needs a couple of light touches. I like the move to 140 because, as you said, Mario, I agree with you. He's been squeezing down to 135. If you see this kid, he's a young kid and he's still growing. Mm-hmm. So 140, I think he'll be physically strong there. He'll be able to keep his power or carry his power up. And plus, with his fast reflexes and things like that, I think that's going to help him even more now that he's, hydrated a little bit more. Right. And feeling strong. But yes, a couple of soft touches, get this kid confidence back. His confidence right now is shattered. He was embarrassed in front of the world. Get his confidence back, 2 to 3, maybe I'll say 2 nice little fights at 140. and then face a top 10 guy and then go after a title at 140 pounds.
Sticking with the lightweight division for a second. I don't even think I told you, Kim, but I've been hearing that they're very close to signing a deal with Ryan Garcia and one Tevin Farmer. Okay. That's the fight that I'm getting told is going to be made. What's your thought on that, Tim?
Tevin Farmer and Ryan Garcia.
Last time I saw Tevin, he was fighting with Jojo Diaz in a very close fight, and that's why I know we got the title from.
But perfect in this sense, Tim. He's a light guy who can't punch,
but he can box.
I was just about to say that. I was just about to say that. But defensively, I think he's very he's challenging.
Yeah,
he's a slick fighter.
He is. He can frustrate you.
Yes, slick fighter, and he's a southpaw.
It's an interesting matchup, huh?
It is an interesting matchup. And the thing is that I wonder if Ryan Garcia learned from the Campbell fight, because to me, I thought he fought the Campbell fight, even though he got the victory. He set himself up to be knocked down like that in that fashion, because he doesn't fight southpaws the right way. He puts his foot on the inside. He keeps his foot on the inside instead of getting his feet on the outside, and he's just right in line for the looping left hand of a southpaw fighter. So I wonder if Tevin, being as slick as he is, knowing the angles of orthodox fighters, could he outbox him? Could he pepper him up? You know, I wonder about that. And I think the fight's an interesting fight. I think the power could prevail for him, but I still want to see it. I just the first of me hearing of this matchup.
Yeah, this is last night I literally had the conversation, and so I like the fight too. You too?
I do. It's interesting. This is the 3 knockdown rule on Triller, joined by ESPN's Tim Bradley, future Hall of Famer. Tim, real simply, is Canelo Alvarez the best fighter in the world, or is he the most big name fighter doing the most, staying most active?
You know, Canelo Alvarez, I don't care where you have him. I know a lot of people have him number one pound fighter in the world. Terence Crawford, to me, I think skill for skill, I think he has the best skills in the world, and he's my number one pound fighter of the world. But I think what everybody needs to realize is they need to do a little bit of homework on Canelo Alvarez and how long this guy has reigned on the pound for pound list. Over a decade. Over a decade, he has been on the pound for pound list. You got to understand that. Do you know how hard that is to stay on the pound for pound list for 10 straight years in a row, Canelo Alvarez? And now you put the championships on top of that. I understand that everybody's saying all the guys he's facing. Well, he beat champions. He beat champions, 4 champions, become the undisputed at 168 pounds. I would say, yeah. I think not only that, you know, he's a marquee name. He's the face of boxing right now. He brings in a ton of money. Yeah, he is the number one fighter in the world. No doubt about it.
I love me some Canelo and I love me some Terence Crawford. And I think they're both similar in the sense that very well schooled, fundamentally sound. No one does the ambidextrous switch hitting like Terence Crawford. But another thing I love about both of them is that they're constantly in the gym. You never see them out of shape, and they got a meanness to them. Yeah. They are great finishers when they can get you in there. They're highly skilled, but there's also that meanness where you're going to get taken. They got you hurt.
But it's taking Canelo some time to get that meanness. It's taking Canelo some time to understand when he has a fighter hurt. You know, before we was complaining about Canelo wasn't being able to finish these guys, you know, and now in recent years, Canelo's found out a way to knock these guys out because now, you know, mentally he understands and physically he can feel these guys weakening now. And that's from experience, doing it over and over and learning the gym and realizing when you got a fighter hurt and taking them out. So
Tim, I know we talked about it. You did an interview in Vegas a couple months back. I didn't like it when Caleb Plant in the middle of the fight telling Canelo, hey, this is a good fight, huh? You're pretty good. I hate it. I'm like, bro, you're here to chop this guy's head off. Do that. I don't know. Am I just being the old guy?
He was hyping himself up.
Yeah, I guess. Tim, do you agree? I know you agree with me, right? We are the old guys sitting on the lawn.
Right.
Come on, man. This guy is looking for reassurance inside the ring, man. I mean, that's showing you a weak mind. I agree with you 100%, Steve.
Yeah.
That's terrible. I've never really seen that before. What do you think? You think I'm good? I'm pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
Oh,
that was embarrassing. That was low key embarrassing. I didn't like that too much.
Come on, man.
It was like Rocky 1. He just wanted to go the distance.
Yeah.
Quick, I wanted to stay because since we mentioned Terence Crawford, it made me think of something. I saw Josh Taylor recently mentioned that he would love to go up and challenge Terence Crawford, and there was video of the two. I think Taylor may have visited Crawford in his camp.
It was a top-ranked gym.
Yeah, it was a top-ranked gym. I didn't realize how much bigger Taylor was. He's a big guy. So for him, than Crawford, for him to squeeze down to 140, that's another guy that I think as he gets up, he'll at 47, I think he'll be able to carry the same tool set. I'm impressed by Josh Taylor, my guy. After I saw him with Prograis and with Ramirez, I was like, my guy can box his ass off. I'm not saying he wins that fight. I'm saying that's a good ass fight though with him and Crawford. What you think, Tim?
That is a fantastic matchup. And if you look at the resume of Josh Taylor and all the guys that he's faced top 10 quality opposition, past world champions, world champions. I mean, he hasn't been around in the game a long time, but man, the success that he's had, it's fantastic. He is I think he's a underrated fighter, to be honest with you.
So do I. I've always said that.
Extremely underrated.
For a guy with less than 20 fights, and you're right, Tim, you talk about Victor Postal, Ivan Baranchek, Regis Prograis, Jose Ramirez.
Yeah.
I mean, that is quantity over quality in terms of record. And speaking of which, I wanted to talk to you about this. I'm watching the show on Saturday. Bright young boxer, Jahai Tucker, 18 years old, went to 6-0. He's developing. I've seen every one of his fights. And you mentioned that him and his team, or specifically the young man, says, and you and Bernardo were saying, well, in a year or two, they want to be in a title fight. I'm like, wait a minute. Tim, the guy's 18 years old. He's facing Brad Goodman handpicked specials. They do a great job. They're top rank. What is the rush? Is this the Lomachenko effect? Because when I was growing up and when you were developing, Tim, it was kind of known you needed at least 24 fights and then you'd be ready. Nowadays, these kids at 18 that don't even have 10 fights are talking about title shots, and I'm thinking they're out of their minds. Am I wrong, Tim?
Well, I think you're right in the middle. I think look, these kids, and I mentioned this on the broadcast, I said these kids nowadays are a bit different than the way we grew up. The way I came up, we didn't spar 12 rounds. These guys are in the gym sparring 15 rounds. They're 18 years old. They're doing things that, the top pros are doing, at the top level already. So mentally, I think that they think that they're ready. I would say physically, Jahai Tucker, being 18 years old, he does have some punching power. My gosh, this kid got some heavy hands. And if you look at the guy that he faced, I don't know if you know Joey Spencer, right?
He gave him hell on Fox about 2 years ago.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, and Jahai Tucker just went in there and destroyed this guy. And Spencer's supposed to be this next hyped up, killer in the division. And Jahai Tucker made it look easy. To me, I thought Jahai Tucker, his performance was the best performance out of the entire night, out of any fighter on the card, to be honest with you. And what makes him so unique is that he's a natural talent, natural ability. A lot of things he doing there is created right there on the spot. A lot of stuff that he does is not taught. You can't teach a lot of things that he do. It's just his natural instinct and ability inside the ring. As far as taking your time, I agree with you on that point. As far as taking your time, I agree with you on that point because he's not disciplined enough just yet. He's getting beside himself inside the ring. He's fighting lower level competition, and he drops his hands too damn often for me. And if he's in there with a puncher at 147 pounds that catches him on that chin, it can be lights out.
Yeah, I like that these kids are ambitious, but I also think they're trying to accelerate their careers and get to those shots at titles for the financial rewards, but you end up doing more harm than good in the long run. Long gone are the days of Marvin Hagler where you got 40, 50 fights under your belt before you get that title shot.
A lot of the Eastern Europeans that are being on the fast track, they're already 27, 28
Well, not only
old.
that, they've had like 300 amateur fights.
So it's a little bit different than when you're a teenager. you're eating Gerbers and you don't feed steak to a baby, as they say.
Two fighters that, well, one that's very young, one relatively young that I'm excited about. And there was a report recently that it might be going down. April 30th, Shakur Stevenson versus Oscar Valdez. I like that. Tim, thoughts?
That's going to be a fight right there. That is definitely going to be a fight. Stevenson is he's a distance professor. And we've seen this with Floyd Mayweather. And I know he doesn't like what's mentioned in Floyd, but when you understand distance, when you understand where you need to be, how do you make a guy miss, how to get in position to hit a guy without getting hit. I mean, that's probably one of the most important qualities in boxing. Your feet.
Right. You're exactly
now, you got a guy like Valdez that got punching power in both hands. And if you go back and you watch Shakur fight against a guy, I think it was Nakatila. Nakatila had punching power. He was a bit bigger, I would say. Shakur seemed a bit timid by the punching power of Nakatila. So he bagged up often. He fought off the back foot often. Yes, he won the fight decisively, but there were still times where I saw vulnerability in Shakur when he was being pushed back and a guy attacking him with punching power in both hands. And that's what he's going to have to deal with when he's facing Valdez. Punching power, experience, championship experience, and a guy that's looking to take his head off.
So, Tim, very simply, if you're Oscar Valdez, do not play chess with Bobby Fischer. He's got to come right out of the gate and be aggressive, correct?
Yes. You can't, look, and I said this on air. I said a lot of times guys, they fight a boxer with better feet by trying to outbox him. No, you don't try to outbox a fighter that has great feet. You got to take it to him. Mm-hmm. You got to be the aggressor. When you're fighting a boxer, be aggressive. When you're fighting an aggressive fighter, be the boxer.
Tim, I want to ask you this, and this ties into your development as a broadcaster. Me and Mario are probably your biggest fans. I think you're pound for pound one of the most important and best voices. And what I loved about your development is that you're not only analytical, you got a lot of John Madden in you, the late great John Madden, that you make it fun. This is entertainment. The way you deliver the message is important as the message. But before the Valdez-Conceição fight with the failed VADA drug test, you said something I thought was as ballsy and as courageous as any announcer. You flat out said on one of the shows on ESPN, you know what? I really respected Oscar Valdez. I liked him. But with this, I hope to see him get knocked out. And I was like, wow. I went there. And I guess the Valdez people say, yeah, we're not doing any fighter meetings this week with ESPN. Tim, did you have any blowback from that particular comment being that bold on it? Because I'm going to start calling you Takade, Bradley, because that was bold.
Takade. No blowback at all. If it was anything, it was from the fans, Valdez fans, but no blowback at all. I sat there in the fighter meeting, and I don't shy away from any of these guys. I'm fearless in my life. I'm fearless with anything I say. I mean what I say. And so when I sat there in the fighter meeting, I looked at him right in his eyes, and I was asking him questions, and he was looking at me right back in my eyes, and he knows what type of man I am because I was a big supporter of Oscar Valdez. And you know what? I'm rightfully so. I still am a big supporter, but I was just pissed off the fact that they allowed this man that tested positive for an illegal substance, they allowed him to continue to fight. Whereas we've seen in the past where fighters, they test positive for anything, they don't get a pass like Oscar Valdez. So why did he get a pass and no one else gets a pass? What? Because it's a T? Come on, man. That's unfair.
Tim,
that is unfair and biased treatment right there.
Tim, looking at that fight with Conceição, it looked to me, just even looking at Valdez before the fight, Oscar, the Mario in the locker room, it looked like he had 1,000 pounds on his shoulders. And even the way he fought, do you think mentally he was affected going into that night with everything?
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Absolutely. And the fight is mental. Every fighter gets in the ring. When they get in the ring, of course, you train, you get prepared, everybody runs and spars and do all that stuff. But when it really boils down to it, mentally, you have to get in there and be able to execute the game plan.
Yep.
And
got to be psychologically right.
I really believe part of the reason why they are taking on Shakur Stevenson after they've been hesitant is to clear their name. I really believe that, you know what? You think we're cheating? You think we're overrated? Because in the past, every time you talk to Valdez's management led by Frank Espinosa, it's like, we'll take it later. I think there's some pressure to actually take it now to clear the name. Speaking of fighter meetings, one of my favorite stories, I'm still at ESPN, and this is one of Tim Bradley's funniest moments. I don't even think he remembers it. Manuel Navarrete comes in there. He was on a Tyson Fury undercard in Vegas. And Navarrete looks over, and he's in awe of Tim. He's like, oh, my God, Tim. And he wanted to talk about the Ruslan Provodnikov fight. Mm-hmm. Tim started getting headaches and a concussion just from bringing the name up. He's like, oh, yeah, I don't want to talk about it. Do you remember that, Tim? And like, Tim kept saying, well, I don't really want to talk about it. But Navarrete is like, wow, what a fight. What was that like? And Tim's like, well, we're here to talk about you. Man, did Provodnikov's punches hurt? And Tim's like, yeah, man, what do you think? And that was one of the funniest moments.
That's like the best compliment you can get, though. Another fighter.
A Mexican fighter was like, wow.
Being in awe. And
Tim, you must remember that meeting, right?
No.
No. Okay, but maybe it's from the Provodnikov fight. Maybe it's from the Provodnikov fight. Tim, I want to talk to you real fast about your career because we can get into this later, but your last fight before you became a world champion was against another future world champion in Miguel Vasquez. Now, from 2008 all the way to your retirement in 2016, you didn't really fight all that much. But Mario, let me go down the list in order of who he fought. Junior Witter on the road, first world title in his backyard. I remember. Then he defended against Edner Cherry, good, solid television fighter. 2009, he fought 3 times. The last year he did that. Kendall Holt, unification bout. Nate Campbell. Lamont Peterson, undefeated. Luis Carlos Abreu in 2010, undefeated. Devin Alexander, unification bout, undefeated in 2011, our favorite place, the Silver Dome. And then he fought Joel Casamayor as he began with Top Rank. Then it went from 2013, in 1 year, he fought Ruslan Provodnikov in maybe the fight of the decade, comes back with Juan Manuel Marquez and outboxes a Hall of Famer. Then he fought Pacquiao. Then he fought Jesse Vargas, Brandon Rios, and he ended his career with Manny Pacquiao III. So my view is if you're not going to fight a lot, make your fights count.
That is a who's who, and damn, so impressive.
Thank you.
There's no layups there. There's no tune-ups there. Everyone a tough out, different styles, different demeanors and attitudes and vibes from all the fighters too, man. And I've always appreciated your style too, because it was always that of you had to be well conditioned, you had to be well prepared, you fought with a lot of heart, you let the fly. It was always exciting. So tip of the hat to you.
Tim, what's your proudest accomplishment out of all that I listed? What's the one thing you hang your hat on?
That's a really good question. That's a great question.
Well, just listening to what you said, if you were to ask me,
how about the resume?
I was going to say the body of work.
You know,
I think that's the stark. Like, not even you pick who you want of any fighters. I think just the body of work is what's so impressive to me.
You know what it is? To be honest with you, it was more for me. It was more about fighting the best available guys out there. The way I see the sport today is picking and choosing, who you want to fight because you have an advantage and trying to make the most money of it instead of fighting the best guys out there. That's the way I carried my career. And I have a lot of expectation of a lot of these young guys to want to challenge themselves to be the best fighters in the world and to see how great they really are. And so with my career, that's what I wanted to show. That's what that illustrates. Fight the best available guys and beat them so that way I can become someday a Hall of Fame fighter.
And Tim, I think you will as we wrap it up here on the 3 Knockdown Rule on Triller with Mario Lopez, ESPN's Tim Bradley joining us. What's the one fight that the fans come up to you the most and discuss or bring up?
Ruslan Provodnikov. Ruslan Provodnikov. And that was right after the Pacquiao controversy win. And that's when the fans actually came back because the fans were like, against me, the whole Pacquiao controversy. I didn't win the fight. They say, you didn't win. But then shortly after, I showed what I truly was made of. I showed the fans, I wore my heart on my sleeve that night. And I said, you know what, I'm going to show the world because I chose to fight that way. I'm going to show the world what I'm made of. What type of champion that I am on the inside. And I was just happy that I was able to get through that fight, to be honest with you.
How much do you remember, Tim?
You know, I remember getting hit in the first round, and then after that, I don't remember anything at all.
What did he catch you with?
It was a straight right hand. It was a looping right hand.
He had that little crouching kind of,
Yeah, it was a nice little, nice short crouching right hand over the top. As I was throwing my right hand, I kept my head on the line, and he caught me with it. But I'll tell you a quick story, and one of the reasons why I retired. In my last fight against Manny Pacquiao, in the last round, I don't think anybody really realizes this, but it was near the ropes. I was attacking Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao slipped over and caught me with a straight left hand right down the middle. That buzzed me. Shortly after that fight, if you go back and look at the interviews, I had no clue that I was knocked down twice. I had no clue that I had fought. I was like, the fight's over. And I went to the hospital shortly after that. And, you know, the doctor said, you got a little bit of amnesia. And I was like, wow, really? He's like, yeah, just a tad bit of amnesia. He's like, you don't remember a whole lot what went on. And shortly after that is when I decided, like, hey, it's time. But before that point, I can even go dive a little bit further down. When I fought against Jesse Vargas, I knew it was getting close to the end because Jesse Vargas's jab was bothering me. It was hurting me. It was stinging me. You know, I can feel it. Like every time he would hit me, it felt like an electric current was going down, up and down my body, you know, and I'm sharing this with you guys because a lot of fighters, what we do is we hide this. We don't talk about this, but I like to share and be just, you know, transparent with all these fighters and say, like, when you're going through things like this, you got to make sure you pay attention and tell somebody, because you don't want to end up being punch drunk or being in the business too long.
Right.
And so that's the reason why I retired from the game when I retired from the game, because I knew the end was near, because physically I was breaking down.
Such a smart move, such a brave move. And considering the opponents we just listed and all the battles you've been in, to be as sharp and articulate and have a faculties, man, you know, God bless. That's it. It's great. And now making this great transition into a sports broadcaster. It's a nice charmed life, Mr. Bradley.
Yes. And
thank you.
at the end of the 6th round, Bradley is literally out on his feet. Tim still throwing punches. One of the greatest acts of courage I've ever seen against Provodnikov. But anyway, Tim, when are you going to be in LA to join us in studio? You know, you have an open invite.
Man, I don't know. with 5 kids, couple of restaurants, man, I'm busy. I'm extremely busy, but you know what? We have to set up a date. I wouldn't mind coming out there and chopping it up with you guys, man, face to face.
And when they have in LA, that we know he's working.
Absolutely. Tim, you have an open invite, man. You're one of our favorite people in the sport, man. Thank you for joining us.
I really do appreciate you guys, man. Thank you so much. All right.
You got
all right.
Best of Mrs. Bradley too.
Yes, and a future Hall of Famer. He should be going to Canastota very soon. So on behalf of Mario Lopez, Tino doing the edits, Justin Buffalo Knuckles, and Smoking Tim Frazier, this is Steve Kim for Triller saying goodbye.